When I was a kid, my mother planned a big springtime garden party. At the heart of her vision was that our backyard would be just filled with daffodils blooming from bulbs that she had planted the previous fall. But as the party date approached, the weather stayed cold and no daffodils were even close to blooming. Yet on the day of the party, our lawn was filled with daffodils just as she had dreamed. The guests just marveled at the springtime beauty of our yard, especially since no garden in the neighborhood had any springtime action like that. But after the guests went home, the daffodils drooped, and my mother crawled through the yard, carefully removing each of the cut daffodils that she'd bought at the florist and attached to chopsticks with little twist ties, and then carefully stuck in the ground. Now, those daffodils were not fake, but they were just short-lived and flimsy, with no bulb under the earth to allow them to survive the rough weather. On the surface, and for a short while, they looked like real daffodils, but they didn't have enough going on underneath to last. I think that's similar to how the life of faith works. You can go to the religious flower shop and pick up a little of this and a little of that and just decorate your life with it. You can visit this religious community with its art and watch a documentary about the other one. You can read one deep thinker after another. You can say you believe in 1,000 wise sayings and make yourself your own pretty bouquet of blossoms, all ready for the party or the picnic on a sunny day. But life is not a picnic. And those of us who finally dig in and put down roots in one tradition, a tradition that is bigger than ourselves, well, I think we've figured that out. Tired of decorating our lives with bouquets of our own choosing, we're ready to go deeper and even ready to put in the work that it requires, because being part of a religious tradition takes work. Part of the nature of religion is that it delivers a message that is like sandpaper against our culture of narcissism. It is not all about you. It is not all about me. And no, you can't make this stuff up. Well, some would argue, yes, I can make this stuff up. In fact, atheists say that all of us religious folks and the self-made spirituality folks are making this stuff up. But I think that when we really do invent our own spirituality with a flower from here and another from there, it's a bouquet that does not live long. Religious traditions created over time, and thank God, by people who are not me, they have a longer shelf life. We can't make that up all by ourselves, because the beauty of a long tradition is that it is bigger than anything we could do by ourselves. Now, I know that these days it is somewhat countercultural to suggest that one might possibly benefit from the company of others in the life of faith, particularly others who've gone before us in ancient traditions. It's so much easier to point out the obvious blind spots of our ancestors in the faith, their missteps around women, sexuality, violence in the name of God, all kinds of ugly things. I get that. I get that because there was a time in my life when I was all about that. I was studying comparative religion as well as feminism. I was into social justice movements, and the more I studied the history of Christianity, the more I wanted to distance myself from it. I mean, I was raised in a loving and accepting church, but when I went to visit a college Bible study, I was completely turned off by their conservatism and their rigidity, so of course I turned to Buddhism. But I yearned for community, and specifically for Christ-centered community. I continued to study other ways, but I ultimately concluded that I wanted more than just an intellectual epiphany. I still wanted a church. So I visited different congregations, trying to be anonymous in the back row, hoping that no one would see me walking in, but still longing to lose myself in something beautiful, something transcendent, something with a longer shelf life than my own latest opinion. I finally found some amazing places that I could call home, and those places didn't just meet my needs. I like to think that they changed my needs, that these communities of faith shaped me and challenged me and helped me to grow closer to God. These days, the culture is full of people who call themselves proudly spiritual but not religious. They're a diverse group, of course, like any other. Some are religion sampling, deep thought collecting, even church shopping. But the common denominator is this real resistance to joining any one particular community of faith. The truth is that sometimes these folks have really been hurt by a religious community in the past, and they're still in so much pain that they don't want to darken the door of a church. Others are turned off by a particular kind of church, either characterized by judgment and literal thinking or by wishy-washiness. And so they paint all churches, even all religions, with the same broad brush. They're unaware that churches are as much of a mixed bag as the spiritual but not religious are. And can I just say, they always seem like they want to tell me that they find God in the sunset. Like we who go to church don't find God in the sunset. Anyone can find God alone on a picturesque mountaintop, the hiking trail, or the sunset. The miracle is that I can find God in the company of other people who are just as annoying as I am. It's pretty easy to play by the rules of a religion in which you write your own script. Much harder to find meaning in the words of a book that we did not write for ourselves, from a very different time. And let's acknowledge that it is hard work. And let's be honest, there are real problems with religion when it goes awry, when it gets constricting, when it becomes unimaginative, when it devolves into a list of rules. We can all come up with our complaints like that. So why bother? In my own case, I decided that a religion of my own making just wasn't much worth following. I'll take a daffodil in my yard over a store-bought bouquet any day. Because no matter how good my taste is at any given moment, I don't want my faith to be all about me. Because here's how it works for me. Grounded in tradition, centered in worship, called to serve, and free to dream. So as I've said, spiritual but not religious was not enough for me. I replanted myself in the Christian tradition, and that's where I blossom, in a garden bigger than my own. But that's my story. What about you? Where do you grow? And where do you thrive?